Found it. Okay, let's have some fun today. But first, we need to choose an amp. Nope. 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 Dope. Nope. Nope. Misunderstood. Nope. Yes! That's the one! Magnatone. I've always wanted to play one of these. If history serves me, Magnatone is one of the oldest amp manufacturers in the world. Dating back to medieval times, Henry VIII was the first endorsee. And if you bought one of his signature amps, it came with a free guillotine.
Guillotine.
What's that?
It's pronounced guillotine.
Oh, I knew that. Well, at least my dates are correct.
Nope.
What do you mean?
It's 1937.
Well, before the pyramids at least. Anyway, we're not filming this, right?
Yeah, we are.
Oh. Magnatone. All right, let's start twisting knobs and see what this thing sounds like. It has EL34 tubes in it, so it's a powerhouse. It has a master volume, which works very well, but it also has 2 channels and a foot switch. So right now I'm on the clean channel. Let's just hear it. Put it in the rhythm pickup. The neck. See, I already like it. I think the cool thing about this amp is it has a lot of detail. I like to play chords that have close intervals because that will be a dead giveaway to me if the amp is going to give me the clarity that I'm looking for. Now, if we start checking out what this actually has on the amp, we've got the presence, the bass, the middle, the treble, and the master. Plus, the low gain channel has its own gain control, and the high gain has its own gain control. We're hearing the low gain channel right now, but what's great is everything's at noon on all of the EQ section. But what I've found with this amp, and this is what I love about it, and I think which is why a lot of players are switching to this amp, is when you start changing the knobs, it's subtle, it's broad, and it's natural. It never goes to a place where it starts to hurt your ears and you feel like you don't have control over the sound. So if I want to hear it maybe a little brighter, let's go ahead and see what that sounds like. Now, turning the brightness all the way up for the presence. It just got some brightness and brilliance that's usable, but not screechy. All right, I'm going back. Now let's try that with the treble. Now all the treble all the way up. It just gives you as much as you might need, even more than you might need. But here's the cool thing. If I go all the way the other way, it doesn't get super dark to where it's not usable. If I just go ahead and put that back to noon, it sounds perfect to me. I love the engineering and design of that, and I'm going to show you the bass is the same. It doesn't go too far. Ready? Here we go without extra bass. All the bass. Let's hear it on the neck position. It didn't get crazy bass. If I go all the way the other way, it's not even going to get that thin. So what I love, like I said, is it's neutral, it's subtle, and it is totally usable all the way through the range of all the controls. Now, if we want to hear the gain that this thing has, I'm going to just use the foot switch, and I'm going to step on the channel. But let's compare it to this. we go. Distortion. All right, now that's pretty loud, but watch this. If I turn the master down, we're still gonna have that same tone without it changing drastically. It was barely at 2 right now. I'm gonna put this down to about 1, let's say. Here we go. Even further down. Even further. It still feels good and sounds good. That's one of the great things about this amp is whatever way you turn the knobs, you're going to get a good tone and a good feeling out of the amp. Okay, everybody, I switched guitars because I want to talk about the most important tone shaping tools on this amp. And I wanted to use some vintage humbuckers for all of you tone lovers out there. This is a 1969 SG. And I want to talk about the gain staging on this amp because there's a couple of things that actually give it some specific character. And before playing this amp, I wouldn't have been able to tell you, what does a Magnatone sound like? I don't know if it has the same immediately identifiable character as a Marshall or a Fender. It's somewhere in between, but the thing that you get is the feel. It starts to feel in the Marshall sense like a Marshall with a ton of sag. It becomes very comfortable to play. And I'm going to show you what gives it that quality in just a second. So right now, this is the low gain setting. So it's a little stiff, you know, this is you could probably play some chords, you know, this kind of thing. That kind of sound is maybe not quite funky enough, right? But check this out. If I switch to the input 2, that is now going to be a little bit less gristly. So you can actually get some clarity, and each guitar is going to give you a different personality from the input stage. So what was stiff feeling now feels a little bit more compressed because it's not pushing as hard into the distortion mode, right? So that's one element of this, but even if I do change channels, I can get a lot of distortion out of this. So that right there is giving you one sense of the flavor of this, but here's the finger grease element, the thing that tells you how much pressure do I have to use on my fingers, how much detail can I get from the notes. That's when we're going to start looking at two things. Let's talk about the interaction between the mid-range and the high gain. This is where the personality of this amp really shines, and this is where you start to get the idea of what the personality of the amp really is. So when I was talking about not knowing what that sound is, I discovered it as I started turning the knobs like this. So right now we have maximum amount of mid-range, and I'm going to start turning the gain up, and let's just see what it sounds like as I do that. Here we go. So it totally cleans up even when it's on the most gain this amp can produce. What I really like though is when I start to play single note lines, I can feel what amount of pressure is going to make the note sing. So let's check that out just for a second. This is a unique part about this amp for me. If I turn the gain down and I do something where I'm just going to use finger pressure, I'm not going to pick, I'm just going to kind of go ahead and put my fingers on the string. All right, so that's without the high gain. I'm going to put the high gain on and I'm going to increase the gain as we go. And you'll start to see at a certain point, the notes just sing without any pressure that I'm changing with my fingers. I kind of have to work to make those notes come out. Now I'm at 6, I'm going to go to about 7 here. I struggle a little bit to get those notes to come out because I'm trying to mute with my left hand. But at a certain point, they actually start coming out. So this is a tricky part to demonstrate because what I'm feeling is I'm hitting these notes just with the same amount of pressure, but the notes start to come out in a way that has more personality. It's a little easier to play. And if I mix it up with legato, just left hand, and then some picking, you'll hear that there's a lot of dynamics in this. So check this out. So even though I have a lot of gain, it will regulate itself almost like a compressor. It's like squeezing and then releasing. And you have the ability to shape those sounds with your fingers and the finger tone. So what I feel is really exciting about this amp is for the kind of player that's really about going straight in and really hearing just finger tone and solid playing. This amp is unbeatable as a tool for that because it gives you a really good connection and really good feel. When you buy an amp, you're not just getting the sound that comes out of this box. It goes through a speaker cabinet and the speakers have their own identity. And I want to make something very clear. Sometimes people forget about that and nobody does demos where they're showing you multiple speakers on an amplifier. At least I haven't seen those. So today I'd like to give you an example of this amp through a couple of different speaker cabinets. And the first one we're listening to right now is the Cornford Richie Kotzen cabinet. And this has 4 speakers in it, but I don't remember which ones they are.
Vintage 30s.
Okay, good to know. Vintage 30s in that one. Now, I also have a Carstens Cab. This one is designed to have the sound of the Van Halen 1 record, meaning that cabinet he used, that Marshall cab, had 2 JBLs on top and it had Celestians on the bottom, some greenbacks. Now, I didn't have a chance to get any JBL vintage speakers, so I got the closest thing I could find, and those were made by
Weber high-powered series.
Weber high-powered series barbecued speakers. That's what I have in there. I don't know exactly which ones, but they're tasty and delicious. We'll get to the mics in a second. I just want to start playing again because this amp is so cool. Let's talk about the microphones that are on these cabs. We have some unique mics today. We have some of the standards. We have some 57s on each, but on the Carstens Cab, we have another one here that looks like an old radio mic, Sontronics Halo, and it's a super cardioid mic, and it's a very cool looking mic and a good sounding mic. And I have a secret weapon microphone. This is a super cool mic. It's unique. It's called the Periscope mic. It's from Scope Labs, and these guys are in Finland, and I'm pretty sure they're pirates. Well, at least I think they are, because when you buy one of these microphones, it comes in a treasure chest box that looks like you've dug it up in some island somewhere, and it's your treasure box. Okay, it's still super cool, and I think you should hear it in isolation and also with the entire sound so you see what it does, because it has a built-in compressor in the microphone. And what I feel like it's doing is it's giving me what I call density for the sound. When I push the fader up, it's adding girth, it's adding dimension, it's adding a flavor that the other microphones don't have on their own. So it is the secret sauce, the secret weapon that we're going to use today. And I have one of those also on the Carstens Cab, which has some different speakers in it. Did we already go over the speakers?
Yes.
Okay, great. Then we should probably talk about the mics that are on there, right?
No, we did that too. Play something.
Okay. All right, let's switch to the other cabinet, because why not? It almost wants to go into feedback. That's pretty sweet. Let's try the Frank Lick. Some pretty nice feedback there. The Carstens Cab has lower wattage speakers in it, so maybe that's contributing to earlier distortion, and maybe it's allowing the feedback, because I wasn't getting that from the Cornford. But I do like the sound of both cabinets. It's actually quieter through the Carstens, but the punch and the overall girth and detail from the Cornford with the vintage 30s is a little bit more to my liking at the moment. But I want to hear a little bit more out of the Carstens for a second. You know what's really fun? Playing guitar. I love teaching guitar. I love playing new gear. This Magnatone amp is really, really a fun amp to play. It sounds great, and I can see why a lot of players are switching to it. I got to play all these badass SGs and hear the different sounds, and I want to do more. All right, see you next time.